Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Simon Götzen, you're watching Simon Says at MTGOacademy.com, and for today's intro I want to go into some of the statistics of Return to Ravnica Limited thus far, and by that I mean what you can take personally from this format in the current stage and think about how you are positioned within the limited metagame. And I want to show you a very nice thing every one of you can do. I assume that most of you are playing on Magic Online. It's a little more difficult if you are playing only offline in real life, but even if you draft only a little bit, it's a very nice way to actually check how you're doing in limited. So what you can do is you go to the collection, your collection, and then you just choose cards from Return to Ravnica block, and I decided to go for the commons, and then you can check this bar here where it says owned larger than something, and I don't draft all that much. I don't have any common more than 30 times, but I can put a 25 here and it immediately shows me that I have 27 Sunspire Griffins, and that's the common I have drafted the most. Now, that gives me quite a bit of information. First of all, I'm probably valuing Sunspire Griffin more highly than the other drafters at the 8-4 tables that I visit. And second of all, I draft white more than the other colors, which well, this is not only something that Magic Online tells me, but I can tell you that this is both true. Now, if you reduce this number, you will slowly see other cards appear. And Knightly Valor is kind of the other good common in white. It's debatable which of these is actually better. And well, one thing I can say is that you definitely want 3 Sunspire Griffins before you want the 3rd Knightly Valor, usually. But this is all in tune with what we had so far. Now, when you walk down this path, you'll see cards appear that aren't all that amazing, like Trancaracle, and that's because you just get more of them than the highly sought after commons. But you can also see that I put a lot of emphasis on combat tricks like Giant Growth and Swift Justice, and I know that I drafted Swift Justice a lot in the early days of the format. I don't think it's that amazing anymore, but Giant Growth has really risen in my evaluation, especially after I read the piece of Brad Nelson at Proto Return to Ravnica. There's the first guild gate that's appearing, and I suspect that there's going to be more of them. Usually in whatever formats I pick up mana fixing pretty highly compared to the other competitors. But here's an interesting thing: when we go down to 15 cards and higher, you see that the trend of me drafting more white cards than any other is continuing, and the only 2 green cards are Druid's Deliverance and Giant Growth, which tells me that I'm probably drafting a lot of Selesnya and a lot of populate decks, which I have had very good results with. So you can do this for yourself. I'm just going to show you what happens when you go further down. Then you see which cards you overvalue compared to the other people at the table. I mean, Stab Wound is a card I'm happy to have a lot of, because it means that when I'm drafting black, I'm getting a lot of Stab Wounds, which is great. But it also shows that I'm probably valuing Perilous Shadow and Terrace Worm a little too highly compared to the other cards. And I'm almost certain that there isn't going to be a launch party here anytime soon, simply because I know for a fact that people pick up launch party more early than I do. Now, let's see what's here. That's only this Lesnar Guild Gate. Now, this is going to get more and more cluttered, so I'm not going to continue this. I suggest you do this for yourself, but here you can see that now we see quite a lot of commons, but most of these aren't the commons you want to have in your main deck. So I'm really only picking up the chuff black cards. And it's not much better for blue, but at least Asperia Skywatch, Tower Drake, and Void Wielder are very, very good main deckable cards. And you can see that while I respect X-Bane Guardian, I'm not overly excited to have it. Not getting the right amount of Centaur's Herald. I would love to have more, but they are really, really hard to come by. So you have to take all of this with a grain of salt, and you have to really be careful not to make the wrong assumptions or draw the wrong conclusions. But simply looking at the numbers and seeing that these are my most drafted red cards tells me personally a lot about my drafting, which I wouldn't have known otherwise. So simply the fact that I have only these 4 red cards tells me that I'm just drafting Selesnya and Azorius most of the time, and I might want to look into what's keeping me from drafting red or drafting red successfully, because my drafting patterns are a result of my experiences with the format, of course. So I think I'm just going to leave it at that. Interestingly enough, I don't actually have the other guild gates all that often, and I suggest you just try this yourself. You can also do the same thing for uncommons, of course, and depending on how much you draft, you're going to get different results from this. Here you see my favorite commons, my most drafted commons, with Call of the Conclave at 8, Selesnya Charm at 7, telling quite an interesting story. Arrest at 8. So yeah, I guess I am a Selesnya drafter after all. I hope you enjoyed this little look at my personal collection, and I hope you can take something from this little intro. Enjoy the draft, and see you next time.